There are moments in history that split time in two, the world before we knew and the world after. This is one of those moments. It began with silence. A single leaked image, not from rumor or conspiracy, but from the James Webb Space Telescope itself, humanity's most powerful eye cast into the abyss. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, a blurred frame in the infrared spectrum. But when scientists enhanced the data, the silence broke. What they saw wasn't a star. It wasn't a comet. It was geometry, precise, cold, deliberate. Hexagonal symmetry surrounding a burning core, angles too perfect to belong to chaos. Light was not reflecting, it was projecting. A razor-straight beam of radiance slicing through space, as though aimed. NASA moved to classify it instantly. Servers went dark. Access logs vanished. But one image escaped, and it changed everything. The name whispered across encrypted forums was 3I Atlas. Not an asteroid. Not debris. A visitor. And what it was doing violated every known law of physics. Because as the data unraveled, scientists realized something terrifying. This object wasn't just passing through. It was a performance. Every rotation, every pulse, every flicker of light, deliberate, measured, intelligent. If this was natural, nature had learned to think. And if it wasn't, then something somewhere was looking back. Stay with me, because this is not the story of what we found in space. It's the story of what space found in us. Every starbound law we've written was about to collapse. Because when 3I Atlas came into view again, it did something no comet, asteroid, or fragment of frozen rock has ever done in the recorded history of the cosmos. It broke the sun. A comet's tail always bends away from solar fire. It's the first rule. Radiation pushes dust, gas, and ice outward. It's written into the fabric of astrophysics itself. But this thing turned that truth inside out. Its luminous stream didn't flee the sun. It reached toward it, like a serpent defying gravity, feeding on the star's fury. At first, the world's leading astronomers argued it must be a trick, a distortion, an artifact of angle. But as data poured in from Webb's instruments, denial turned to dread. The tail wasn't scattering. It was pulsing, in rhythmic bursts, in 16-hour intervals, like a heartbeat. Each pulse carried thermal spikes, heat building, releasing, vanishing, far too structured to be random. It was propulsion, controlled, intelligent propulsion. Every interval aligned with its rotation, every surge echoing precision. And then came the light, not reflection, manipulation. The particles in its wake bent wavelengths into symmetry, redirecting solar radiation as if sculpting sunlight itself. Not a mirror, a mechanism. Someone or something was driving this. When simulations ran the math, the result shattered every probability curve. The chance of a natural body behaving this way? Zero. It wasn't moving through the solar wind, it was using it. Riding the very breath of our star as if it were fuel. What kind of intelligence harnesses the sun like an engine? What kind of presence turns physics into a puppet? And what happens when it starts steering toward us? Every journey tells a story. But this one was written with intelligence. 3I Atlas didn't wander into our solar system. It chose its path. When astronomers traced its trajectory, they found something that shouldn't exist. A route so deliberate, so mathematically exact, it looked engineered. The object didn't drift from the void like a stray wanderer. It entered from above the solar plane, then curved inward in a perfect dance. Mars, Venus, Jupiter. Each pass a gravity assist, each swing a slingshot. It was following the same maneuvers NASA uses to guide deep space missions. The same sequences used by Voyager, by New Horizons, only this object wasn't slowing down. It was accelerating. Every planet it passed, it gathered momentum, as if harvesting gravity itself. And when analysts simulated its course, they found something far more unsettling. The object's path wasn't chaotic. It was strategic. Each flyby traced a chain of gravitational resonance points, ideal positions for dropping probes, deploying sensors, or collecting data. To craft such a route by chance? 1 in a billion. To craft it by design? Intentional, purposeful, watching, And then, as if aware it had been discovered, 3I Atlas prepared to vanish. Its final arc positioned it to slip behind the sun at the exact moment Earth's telescopes would be blinded by solar interference, the one time we couldn't see it. It's almost as if it didn't want to be watched, almost as if it knew when we would look. Harvard's Avi Loeb called it a cosmic intelligence test, but others whispered something darker, not a visit, a survey. Because whatever 3I Atlas is, it's not just passing through. It's mapping us. Silence. Not from space, from us. In every major event that shakes the world, there's a moment when governments go dark. No statements, no leaks, no data. Just the hum of servers being wiped and networks sealed behind black encryption. That's what happened the day 3I Atlas crossed Mars' orbit. At first, observatories buzzed with excitement. Live data streamed from telescopes, forums exploded, citizen scientists compared readings. But then, one by one, feeds went offline. First, the NASA Deep Space Network. Then, the European Southern Observatory. Then, private orbital telescopes, locked out by security protocols. An email surfaced from a whistleblower inside the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the ARO, the Pentagon's own unit for unidentified phenomena. It spoke of active simulations. Not theories, not studies. Simulations. Scenarios being run in real time. 3I Atlas wasn't a curiosity anymore. It was being treated as a threat model. Analysts inside defense circles whispered one word. Rehearsal. For what? No one knew. But if you listened closely, between encrypted transmissions and no-comment statements, you could feel the tremor of preparation. Meetings between generals and scientists. New restrictions on orbital imaging. Classified briefings labeled planetary defense. Yet no weapon could reach it. At over 130,000 miles per hour, it outran every interceptor humanity had ever built. We could only watch. And maybe that's what it wanted. Because behind closed doors, intelligence agencies weren't just asking what 3I Atlas was. They were asking what would happen if it changed course. If it slowed. If it turned. And the scariest question of all, what if it already had? What if it wasn't orbiting us, but waiting for us? It began as a whisper in the data, a faint distortion near the core, something most analysts dismissed as noise. But when a team of independent researchers enhanced the leaked web image, the blur took shape, and the universe blinked back. There, nestled within the object's blinding halo, was a symbol, perfectly geometric, triangular symmetry, a hollow center, encircled by arcs spaced at impossible precision. It rotated with 3I Atlas, not drifting, not pixelated, anchored to its body like an insignia. Engineers ran diagnostics, suspecting lens artifacts or sensor interference. None fit. The alignment was exact, its proportions constant, its form evolving with the object's rotation. Whatever this mark was, it wasn't random. It was designed. When historians of ancient civilizations were consulted, something eerie happened. The formation resembled glyphs carved into ancient Sumerian tablets, echoed in Vedic star diagrams, and replicated in pyramid blueprints across continents that never met. Coincidence? Impossible. These shapes spanned cultures separated by oceans and centuries. Yet now, there it was, burning from an alien object beyond our sky. The pattern's meaning remains unknown. Some called it a signature, others a warning. A few whispered it was the Eye of Origin, a mark that once guided early astronomers, a symbol that means made. If that's true, then 3I Atlas carries not just structure, but authorship. Someone or something built it, and like every creation, it bears the mark of its maker. When that realization spread through the research channels, something strange followed, sudden blackouts. Observatories disconnected. Encryption keys revoked. Projects shut down mid-transmission. It was as if someone or something didn't want that mark to be seen. Because a symbol is more than shape. It's a claim. And this one seemed to be claiming us. The first sign wasn't a statement. It disappeared. Data streams from space telescopes cut. Observatory dashboards frozen. Access credentials revoked. Scientists who had tracked 3I Atlas for weeks suddenly found themselves staring at login errors, system resets, temporary suspensions. But nothing about this was temporary. Within 48 hours, the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs scheduled an unscripted emergency summit. No live stream, no press, just 5 nations behind sealed doors: the United States, Russia, China, India, and the European Union. Together, they represent every active deep space program on Earth. Their agenda leaked in fragments. One phrase repeated in every transmission: unidentified technological object of interstellar origin. And then a silence protocol, a joint agreement that no disclosure would occur without unanimous consent. Every government, every agency, every private space network is now bound by a single clause: do not speak. Astronomers across continents began reporting technical outages. AI-based imaging systems went offline. Research papers vanished from archives within minutes of upload. Even private space startups were struck. Orbital imaging APIs suddenly returned blank frames where 3i Atlas should have been. What kind of discovery forces rivals to cooperate? What kind of truth demands silence? Behind the curtain, diplomats weren't arguing. They were negotiating not ownership but containment. Because for the first time in history, the question wasn't "what have we found?" It was "what happens if everyone finds out?" When enemies stop competing and start erasing, something extraordinary has been uncovered. Something civilization isn't ready for. A world once divided by borders now speaks in whispers of unity, not born of peace, but of fear. And the silence? It isn't ignorance. It's control. Because if the truth escapes, it won't just rewrite science. It will redefine humanity. It began as a routine observation, another attempt to fix Webb's gaze upon the enigma we now call 3i Atlas. But this time, the telescope refused. Engineers described it as a focus lock failure. But that phrase barely contains the dread of what followed. Webb, a machine built to obey, to aim, to record, chose not to look. It rejected every alignment command, every recalibration. Turned away. For the first time in its flawless history, humanity's most advanced eye blinked. Diagnostics were run. Code combed line by line. Nothing. No corruption. No error. The telescope was operational, just disobedient. And then, as astronomers scrambled to regain control, the night sky flashed. Observers from 3 continents witnessed it, brief, rhythmic bursts where 3i Atlas should have been. Flashes so sharp they cut through the void like camera strobes aimed directly at Earth. Each burst is separated by precise intervals, almost like a signal. Some dismissed them as cosmic rays. Others compared them to optical countermeasures, defensive responses. But one question silenced every room. What if it wasn't defending itself? What if it was communicating? Because for all our intelligence, we still think like watchers. But what if we're being watched back? What if 3i Atlas understood that it was under observation, and responded not with violence but vision? The flashes grew more deliberate, more synchronized. Every pulse seemed aware. And as Webb refused to see, a chilling realization spread through the control room. Maybe it wasn't malfunctioning at all. Maybe it was obeying something else. Not human hands. Not earthly commands. Something older. Something that does not want us to look. Yet, every truth that shakes the world begins as a mistake. But this was no accident. The image that ignited the storm wasn't on any schedule. It wasn't authorized, transmitted, or even meant to exist. No timestamp in the Space Telescope Science Institute matched it. No mission log contained it. When investigators traced its origin, they found a ghost, an unmarked remote session buried deep in the Webb archive. It appeared during a calibration cycle when no human operator was active. The image uploaded itself. Metadata showed something impossible. A data packet routed through an external node, timestamped milliseconds before the system registered it. In other words, it entered before it was recorded. And then came the question no one dared ask aloud. Who took it? If it wasn't Webb's team, wasn't a hacker, wasn't a cosmic fluke, then maybe the object itself wanted to be seen. A whistleblower from within NASA claimed the photo reached the public through a containment breach in their relay servers. But those who examined the data saw patterns, intentional encoding like breadcrumbs left in binary. Not sabotage. Delivery. Every pixel seemed arranged to catch human attention. The beam, the symmetry, the impossible geometry, all perfectly framed, as if composed. Theories erupted. A rogue insider risking everything to warn the world. A cyber intrusion from a hostile nation. A coincidence birthed from noise. But one theory silenced the rest, that 3i Atlas leaked the image itself. That it used our own systems, our own curiosity to make us look. It didn't want secrecy. It wanted recognition, as if whispering across the void. You were never the discoverers. You were discovered. It started as static, a faint interference in deep space channels, a jitter in calibration signals. Then, one by one, our eyes on the cosmos began to go blind. At first, engineers thought it was solar noise. But the sun was calm. No flares. No storms. And yet instruments across the globe, from Chile to Japan, began to flicker, drift, and fail. Gyroscopes desynced. Spectrometers refused calibration. Data turned to fog. The only constant was location. Every glitch pointed back to the region where 3i Atlas had passed. Satellites skimming near its trajectory began dropping offline. First CubeSats, then entire observation arrays. They didn't explode. They didn't burn. They just died. Their batteries drained without heat, without cause, as though the vacuum itself had swallowed their power. What kind of presence doesn't radiate energy but absorbs it? Space-time distortions registered faint ripples across Lagrange points. Clocks orbiting Earth began disagreeing by microseconds, then milliseconds. Relativity doesn't shift like that. Not unless something nearby is rewriting the grid. And then came the invisible sphere. Observatories mapping cosmic background radiation detected a void. A bubble of interference expanding where 3i Atlas once glided. Light bent wrong inside it. The radio bounced away like it had hit glass. We weren't just watching an object move through the universe anymore. The universe was bending around it. What if this wasn't propulsion, but presence? What if 3i Atlas didn't fly through space? What if it changed? Every reading screamed the same unthinkable truth. It wasn't simply here. It was anchored, and everything around it, time, energy, matter, began to obey. The watchers were losing signal. The universe itself was answering a command. When the signal analysts first noticed the fluctuations, they dismissed them as background noise, the kind every deep space transmission carries. But this noise repeated. It looped, it mirrored, and then it began to evolve. Hidden in the telemetry from web scans of 3i Atlas was a faint pattern of light frequencies that pulsed in exact binary rhythm. At first glance, it's meaningless. But when mapped into sequence data, something extraordinary emerged. Structure. It wasn't language, not in any human sense. It wasn't math or prime intervals or modulation encoding. It was organic. The waveform matched recursive biological patterns, the kind found in RNA chains. A genetic signature, but not from life as we know it. Each strand contained redundancies, self-correcting loops, and triggers a biogenic algorithm. It was as if the object wasn't trying to speak to us, but to activate something. When the team converted the pulse into a genomic model, their computers slowed. Processing power bled away. Recursive simulations spiraled infinitely. It behaved like living code, rewriting, refining, growing. And then someone asked the question that turned the room to ice. What if it's not meant to be read by us, but through us? Because every element of that signal resonated with organic frequencies, the same energy fields found in living cells. To decode it might be to execute it. One scientist called it a seed in the spectrum. Information designed to be absorbed, not interpreted. Something that could awaken only when processed by consciousness itself. It wasn't a message. It was a mirror, a pattern that looked back not at our machines but at our biology. And for the first time, scientists realized